Hello, good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. You're watching World Today. Before we begin, here's a brief look at today's top stories. Malaysia and Russia are ready to strengthen strategic cooperation, including in ensuring long-term energy and oil supply security. The commitment was reached during a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim and Russian President Vladimir Putin. US President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian have signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, aimed at paving the way toward ending the conflict between the United States and Iran. Initially, the memo had been signed digitally by Vice President J.D. Vance and Iran's chief negotiator Mohammad Bakir Kalibah and witnessed by Trump. However, the latest development showed that the US President penned his signature onto the MOU during dinner with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Palace of Versailles following a G7 summit. Poland and Germany signed a bilateral defense agreement, defense ministers of both countries, as Warsaw is seeking to firm up its alliances at the time when it sees a rising threat from Russia. Poland has already signed defense treaties with France and Britain and is working on one with Italy. Malaysia and Russia are ready to strengthen strategic cooperation, including in ensuring long-term energy and also supply security, oil supply security. Now, the commitment was reached during a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, according to the Prime Minister's office, the move is in line with the Madani government's efforts to ensure the stability, continuity and resilience of the country's energy supply for the benefit of the people and sustained economic growth. Beyond energy, the two leaders also discussed expanding economic cooperation and exploring new high-potential sectors. These include technology, cybersecurity, the digital economy, artificial intelligence, modern agriculture and pharmaceuticals. The discussions also touched on efforts to facilitate the movement of people through visa liberalization, as well as proposals to expand bilateral trade and investment using local currencies, namely the ringgit and the ruble. On a related note, Malaysia expressed its appreciation to President Putin for his support in strengthening energy cooperation with Malaysia at a time when the world is facing supply challenges. The support includes providing a platform for engagement between Petronas and Russia's largest integrated energy company, Rosneft.
But there are issues, Mr. President. As you know, energy, you have given fantastic support. Thank you very much. And Petronas was here with your counterpart, some of the companies here. We certainly got great admiration for your determination to enhance that collaboration and support during this initial energy crisis and now. And then you have also agreed these flights for tourism, for trade, and connectivity between Malaysia, Moscow, Kazan, and other cities in Russia. And I hope you can give the required support to enhance that and facilitate, in fact, accelerate that process.
Russia was Malaysia's 9th largest trading partner among European countries in 2025, with total trade amounting to 8.72 billion ringgit. Malaysia's key exports to Russia include electrical and electronic products, machinery, equipment and parts, as well as food products. Meanwhile, Malaysia's main imports from Russia comprise petroleum products, minerals, chemicals and chemical-based products. Malaysia and ASEAN do not use the term neutrality in addressing international issues such as the conflict in Gaza. Instead, the bloc's stance is based on human rights principles and the rejection of atrocities. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said ASEAN instead adopts the concept of centrality, which reflects the region's position of not being bound to any particular ideological stance or major power.
It means that we are not tied to this
particularly any particular ideological position or superpower, but we do express our feelings, our position strongly, consistent with our policies on human rights, on abuse, and atrocities inflicted against so many minorities elsewhere.
Malaysia also takes an independent stance in its international relations, including when dealing with geopolitical issues involving various countries. The country has also expressed its position on attacks against sovereign states and stressed that such matters should be viewed from the perspective of fundamental principles of international relations. U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian have signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, aimed at paving the way toward ending the conflict between the United States and Iran. The officials said that the memo had been signed digitally by Vice President J.D. Vance and Iran's chief negotiator Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf and witnessed by Trump. However, the latest development showed that the U.S. president penned his signature onto the MOU during dinner with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Palace of Versailles following a G7 summit.
You signed the deal? You signed the MOU? It's signed, yeah. You signed? You signed it.
Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baqei said the document was finalized with the signatures of the presidents.
زمانی 60 روزه طرف مقابل نباید اقدام به تقویت حضور نظامیش در منطقه بکنه. از نظر ما اگر چنین اتفاقی بیفته خب نقض تعهد محسوب میشه و همینطور وضع تحریم‌های جدید.
The deal aims to draw a line under the war launched 28 February by the United States and Israel, prompting Iran to counterattack with missiles and drone salvos across the region and effectively shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial waterway for the world economy. The official Iranian news agency IRNA on Wednesday published the full text of a 14-point memorandum of understanding between Iran and the United States. The document outlines a framework for ending hostilities, launching negotiations toward a final agreement, and addressing issues ranging from sanctions and maritime security in Iran's nuclear program and reconstruction. Key points of the proposal include an immediate ceasefire, respect for sovereignty and non-interference, negotiations on a final agreement within 60 days, the lifting of the U.S. naval blockade, and the restoration of commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. In addition, the proposal includes the release and full access to frozen Iranian funds and assets with procedures to be agreed upon during negotiations. It also calls for the establishment of a joint implementation mechanism to monitor compliance with the memorandum and any future final agreement. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes continue to target towns in southern Lebanon despite the signing of an MOU between the United States and Iran. Israeli drones carried out 3 attacks in Tyre that resulted in injuries, while a drone also targeted the Bint Jil district in Nabateh. The fighting in Lebanon is considered one of the biggest threats to the framework agreement in the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, with Tehran warning that new Israeli strikes on Lebanon and continued occupation of its territory would be regarded as a violation of the deal. Earlier on Wednesday, it was reported that Israeli forces carried out an airstrike on the outskirts of Kaf Tebnit, also in the Nabateh district. They also launched raids on the town of Nabateh al-Fawqa and shelled the Ali al-Tahir heights and the outskirts of the town. A day earlier, Israeli attacks killed at least 4 people in Nabateh, including drone strikes on several vehicles. Hezbollah fighters, meanwhile, launched at least 10 rockets towards Israeli forces near Kaf Thabit. Later on Wednesday, the Israeli occupation army said an explosion in Hezbollah drone detonated near its troops stationed in southern Lebanon, wounding at least 4 of them.
Bully bukan gurauan, dan bully juga bukan sekadar kata-kata yang mampu mematahkan semangat. Apa yang muncul bukan sahaja hati, tetapi juga harapan. Jika anda nampak, jika anda adalah mangsa, laporkan segera. Hentikan buli, hentikan tragedi.
Dalam dunia yang bergerak pantas, siapa yang benar? Di sinilah anda kembali kepada sumber yang diyakini. Reka letak moden, akses lebih lancar, ringkasan AI, chatbot interaktif, akses tanpa sempadan. Portal Berita RTM, benar, tepat dan dipercayai.
French President Emmanuel Macron said a Group of 7 summit this week had been a success and showed unity behind Ukraine. Macron also confirmed an agreement between the United States and Iran had been signed at Versailles, which he described as a step toward ending conflict and restoring peace. He added that it included the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz without tolls during a 60-day negotiating period covering nuclear, ballistic and regional issues.
Nous avons tenu ce G7 qui a permis d'avancer sur beaucoup de sujets qui sont très importants pour nous. L'Ukraine, le commerce international, l'intelligence artificielle, la paix au Proche et Moyen-Orient que nous soutenons depuis des mois. Et donc je pense que ce G7 a été utile, a été un succès. Et j'avais souhaité avoir ce moment plus bilatéral avec aussi le président Trump pour célébrer les 250 ans de l'indépendance américaine qui s'est aussi un peu construite ici. C'est important pour nos compatriotes. Et en effet, ce soir, et c'est une très bonne nouvelle, a pu être signé officiellement par le président ici même, à Versailles, cet accord entre l'Iran et les États-Unis d'Amérique. Je pense que c'est un accord qui permet de mettre fin au conflit, qui permet la paix, la réouverture donc, du détroit d'Ormuz, sans péage, et 60 jours qui vont s'ouvrir pour conclure un accord sur le nucléaire, le balistique et les activités régionales. Donc nous allons continuer de travailler. Enfin, c'est un moment de paix et une bonne nouvelle pour beaucoup de nos compatriotes parce que les prix, normalement, du carburant aussi vont baisser, les prix du gaz.
On Ukraine, Macron said the G7 had been unified in backing Kyiv, with support aimed at helping it resist and defend its independence. Poland and Germany signed a bilateral defense agreement, defense ministers of both countries, as Warsaw is seeking to firm up its alliances at a time when it sees a rising threat from Russia. Poland has already signed defense treaties with France and Britain and is working on one with Italy. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius emphasized the importance of the partnership for regional security.
Und wir wissen beide, dass eine Sicherheit, eine wirkungsvolle Abschreckung an der Ostflanke ohne eine starke deutsch-polnische, polnisch-deutsche Kooperation nicht denkbar ist. Und deswegen stellen wir uns dieser Verantwortung und gehen alle Schritte, die notwendig sind, um das zu erreichen. Und der heutige Tag ist ein solcher wichtiger Schritt mit einem Verteidigungsabkommen, wie es das in dieser Form noch nie gegeben hat.
The document was signed on the 35th anniversary of the signing of the Polish-German Treaty of Good Neighborly Relations and Friendly Cooperation. The U.S. Federal Reserve kept the target range for the federal funds rate unchanged at 3.5 to 3.75%. Now, in the statement, the Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC, said that the economic activity is expanding at a solid pace despite elevated uncertainty that owes in part to the conflict in the West Asia. Productivity growth and capital investment remain strong. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has stayed largely unchanged. The FOMC reaffirmed its policy of maintaining ample reserves in the banking system. All 12 FOMC members voted for keeping the rate unchanged. Following the FOMC meeting held on Tuesday and Wednesday, meeting participants submitted their projections of the most likely outcomes for real GDP growth, the unemployment rate, and inflation for each year from 2026 to 2028 and over the longer run.
Pele.
I gotta go with Ronaldo.
Iniesta.
Beto. Kylian Mbappé. Messi. How could you not be excited?
Pasukan gergasi berentap demi merangkul satu piala berprestij. Inilah pentas bola sepak teragung dunia. Bermula 12 Jun hingga 20 Julai ini, tonton 104 perlawanan secara percuma di saluran RTM dan penstrima langsung di RTM Klik.
South Korea coach Hong Myung-bo on Wednesday described the appearance of a drone during a closed World Cup training session as regrettable ahead of the crucial World Cup Group A game against co-hosts Mexico. Mexican security forces said the device was intercepted over the training ground on Tuesday because it was not registered.
예, 어제 저희가 훈련 중에 드론이 떴다라는 사실을 알게 됐고요. 다행히 저희가 전술적인 훈련을 하기 조금 전이라서 크게 영향은 받지는 않았지만 그래도 그 경기에 준비를 하는 데 있어서 가장 중요한 시간에 그런 일들이 벌어진 거에 대해서는 아주 큰 전 유감이라고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
South Korea are looking to build on the momentum of their 2-1 comeback victory over the Czech Republic to secure a firm grip on the top of the group. The drone incident added a layer of tension to the high-stakes match at the Guadalajara Stadium tomorrow, where Mexico will look to leverage its status as a tournament co-host. Neymar took another careful stride out of Brazil's medical room and back towards the World Cup spotlight on Wednesday, joining his teammates on the practice field for the first time since the 5-time champions arrived in New Jersey. The 34-year-old forward, recovering from a right calf injury, was seen doing drills with the squad after warming up separately in boots and with the ball, offering Brazilian supporters a glimpse of progress before Friday's Group C match against Haiti in Philadelphia. It was another step in a gradual return for Brazil's number 10, who had on Tuesday, in a session closed to the media, stepped onto the pitch for the first time since the squad arrived, with the Brazilian FA saying he did physical work and had some contact with the ball. Whether that turns into full training or even a place on the bench against Haiti remains uncertain, as media had access only for the first 15 minutes of Wednesday's session. Neymar had been limited to indoor work at the team's training center with physiotherapists and fitness coaches. The calf problem was sustained during Santos' 3-0 defeat by Curitiba last month and is the latest in a long run of injuries and physical setbacks for Neymar, who has not played for Brazil in almost 3 years. Ivory Coast World Cup forward El Yawahi was at the center of an investigation into suspected sports corruption on Wednesday after unusual betting patterns were detected around a yellow card he received in a League One match last month, according to statements from French authorities and the French Professional Football League, LFP. However, Wahi was not named as a suspect. The spokesperson for the Marseille prosecutor's office said a 23-year-old League One player was taken into custody on 29th May as part of an investigation into suspected organized fraud, organized sports corruption, handling stolen goods and money laundering. The LFP said it had alerted authorities after betting monitoring partners detected an unusually high volume of wagers placed internationally on Wahi receiving a yellow card during Nice's final day league match against Metz on 17th May. The LFP said it had not initiated disciplinary proceedings and would make no further comment. The Ivory Coast team said it had no information on the subject. The Athletic reported on Wednesday that Wahi had been arrested by French police on 29th May, little more than 2 weeks before Ivory Coast opened their World Cup campaign with a 1-0 win over Ecuador in Philadelphia. Well, that concludes today's edition of World Today. Till then, I'm Otto Othman. Salam Malaysia Madari. Thank you for watching.